Welcome, everyone, to the Insurance Perspectives podcast. On today's show, we have Patty Lares of AA Lares Insurance Services out of Orange, California. Patty grew up in Guadalajara, Mexico, and immigrated to California at the age of 9. She started working in insurance right out of high school, and after a long tenure working for an agency, she decided to open her own agency as AA Lares Insurance Services. Her agency today has 2 locations, one in Orange and another in Anaheim. Family means a lot to AA Lares Insurance Services, as some of the team members are actually blood relatives, including her daughter Vanessa. AA Lares Insurance is focused on supporting the community, and they do this throughout the year. 2 of their events include feeding the less fortunate on Thanksgiving and providing blankets and other essentials to those in need. In her free time, Patty enjoys hiking and spending time with her grandson. She is also a board member of the HawkSoft user group, where I have had the extreme pleasure of working with her for a little over a year, probably going on 2 years now, as well as being one of my favorite California agents. So Patty, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Thank you, Kenny, for the introduction.
You're very welcome. I always want to tip the hat to podcast producer Jeff, who does the opposition research, as I like to say. I'm going to do my best not to just ask you about Anaheim and being so close to Disneyland. But some background for listeners, and listeners of the series, others participated in a panel on mental health that we did at the HawkSoft User Group National Conference in Carlsbad. And you were very generous with your time and participating in that and giving your perspective. So I'm really excited to have our listeners hear from you as an agency owner and as someone who is deeply connected to your team and your community. I want to start with some background on AA Lares Insurance Services. So Patty, how hands-on are you at the agency day to day?
I'm pretty hands-on, I guess, dangerous enough to just make everyone like, can you just stay away from things? But I mean, I'm here every single day. As far as the processes of, payments and changes and new business, I'm not doing it daily or even weekly. But I do take calls, and there are some clients that still only want to speak with me, and I love to talk, so I can definitely have conversations and then pass on the follow-up work to the rest of the team.
Excellent. And then how many team members do you have? How many people are at the agency?
So there's 21, including myself. So 20,
Wow.
20 team members now. Yes.
That's amazing. How are they evenly split between the office in Orange and the office in Anaheim? Are any of them remote?
Yeah, so we have quite a few remote now. It's interesting. We currently have 5 members in Anaheim, in the city of Orange. In our Orange office, there's 8 of us. That's where I normally am at. And then we have a couple team members in Fresno, Central California, some in San Bernardino County, and we have some in even other countries.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
And then you are the agency principal. It's always interesting to me, the different titles folks use. How do you describe your role at the agency?
I would just describe myself, just the person that makes their life a little bit more challenging. I love to create. So I'm the
Sure.
creator, I guess, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like that. So you view yourself as like the task creator, the goal creator, opportunity creator, that type.
Yeah, that would be it.
So you have people spread out and all around. How is the agency structured? Do you have like department heads? Do you have, is the sales team different from the service team, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. So we've done, throughout the years, and so blessed to have this. We do have our side of me. There's the leader of the organization, which we don't have like manager titles because I don't think anyone likes to be managed.
Mm-hmm.
So she's just the leader. of the organization. Then we have our sales department, we have our customer service department, we have our support team, we have a director of welcome, and we have a marketing team.
Excellent.
Currently, I lead the sales team, which is probably not the best, but looking to find a leader for that team. And the customer service. So when we talk about the support, what does support do? Well, the support team supports every single person within the organization. There's 5 of them, so we have one that supports in the marketing department. We have a couple of them that support within the customer service department, and the billing, claims, all of those things. There's a person specifically for that. We have someone that does more of the commercial and sales. So everyone is being supported with the follow-up of paperwork.
That is super cool. So when I first heard you describe it, I was like, oh, interesting. You have a service team and a support team. Because I think about it like HawkSoft, where we have what we call our product support team, but then we also have a customer success team that are kind of interventionists for our customers. Right. But you actually have a team inside the agency for internal support.
Absolutely, yes.
That is so cool. And
we are building our, just what you guys have, more of the client experience team. And it's in the development currently, reassigning. And part of that, I'm also redoing who is going to be more of the integrations team leader, which most likely will be Vanessa. And when I think of that as someone that handles all of the software, all of those things, and so the go-to person if anyone is having trouble with it, with technology wise. But the support team has really been a big add to our team, because a lot of the things that the team was getting caught up with, they're helping to make sure that the client does have a good experience, and that the team is not feeling so overwhelmed with the expectations that I have or that we have within the agency.
Sure. Yeah. So you mentioned Vanessa, and I mentioned in the introduction that you work with your daughter. Yes. She's a key member of the agency. So you're working with family. You have employees, if I understand it correctly, that are related to each other as well. Yes. What kind of dynamic does this introduce to the agency around how you support each other?
I really feel like that has really been supportive in many, many ways. One is that I think we all want what's best for the agency and the health of the agency. They take pride in it. So whatever it takes to get the work done. And, we always talk about how what we're known for. It's not who we say we are, but what others say we are, right? So that's really important. And it's interesting because within our support team, we have a brother-sister relationship, best friend to each one of the other 2 members. And what I found is that when one of them is going to be off or vacation, all of them are willing to just jump in and, hey, don't worry about it. We'll take care of your part while you're gone. Within us, I have my brother, my sister, a husband, Vanessa, we have another set of sisters that work. And so they just really kind of help each other as well. I think the only down part of having family is when you have a big event.
Sure.
Where everyone needs to be part of this event, then you struggle a little bit. But for the most part, there's not, not a whole lot of that.
Yeah. And it sounds like it really helps cement the bonds within the agency. In the very first part of this series, when we were talking with Dr. Leslie Hammer, she brought up that this old myth that your work life and your personal life were like separate spheres. And she talked about research. I'll make sure to send you the episode. But it sounds like there's a bit of an easier situation that has developed within your agency, because there's an acknowledgement that while work and personal life can be separate areas, they bleed into each other. And it sounds like it maybe helps to just lean into that as opposed to resist it.
Absolutely. I don't know if for other families, truly, or for us. I'm not sure if it was from the culture at the beginning that it was always about family and just taking care of each other as family. And that's just something that has gone, in the last 24 years. But it truly is. Like, I hear sometimes, like my sister saying that, oh my gosh, we have shining stars that we give shining stars to each other and electronically. It's like, because he helped me like quote this, or he helped me navigate this, right now with the market, and they're talking to each other, and it's like they're giving even each other shining stars. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Do you think it benefits the relationships outside of work, that type of gratitude in the workplace?
Absolutely. And we actually now have a little bit of a rule because we find ourselves always talking about work, even outside when we have certain families. Oh my God, and you remember this client? And it's just like, and you enjoy it. And at the same time, it's like, guys, just stop.
Yeah.
The rest of the family's like, can you guys not talk about work? They're like, we like it.
And that's good. I think that's it is one of those things that I find unique in the insurance space. And I'm sure there's other industries where people really love their jobs, and so they'll talk about it in their free time as well as their work time. But it's something that I find. I was just at a conference, and it was a stressful event. And I was very fortunate to run into some partners that I really enjoy talking to outside of work. And we went out to dinner, and we talked insurance the whole time. It didn't feel like work, but we still talked insurance. It is those things where I think that's nice to find that supportive environment. And it feels like family's not a shortcut, because family can be difficult sometimes, but it sounds like because you're able to foster a positive environment, it is really beneficial, and you can maybe have a shortcut to trust. Like, they care about you, they have your best interest at heart.
Well, and I also want to add, Kenny, for anyone who may consider family, I know there's family members and there's family members, right? But from the very beginning, one of the conversations I always have is that there's two types of relationships. And one's going to be a work relationship and a personal relationship. And while I love them and I want everything, I want the best for every single one of them, I do get to protect our business. And if at any given point, and that's the difficult part, that if you don't like confrontation, which I don't, but I've had to learn, that it's not really confronting in a combative way. It's more of, hey, this is what's been happening, and we need to protect it. And others are always watching. Somehow also there's a lot of burden for them because other team members may think that there's a special consideration for family members, and it's absolutely the opposite. I said, I have higher standards for them because of it. They get to lead by example. And so I usually have a little bit more conversations with them than anyone else, to be honest.
Yeah. I great family friends growing up that were my basketball coaches, and they were definitely harder on their own kids who played on the teams than any of us. They were good, strict coaches, but it was like we all got a 10 and their kids got an 11 in the coaching department. So I totally understand what you're saying. I want to ask, because I know that you're tuned in really tightly to your people. What attributes are you aware of in your staff that could be an indication that their mental health or their personal life is maybe in distress or starting to suffer a little?
Well, for one, I think every Monday morning we do a check-in and we share about our weekend. Briefly, everyone says what they did over the weekend. Like, I did this, I did that. And that's one, and I'll come back to the whole thing. The other thing that I do is on a monthly basis, I schedule with every single one of them a one-on-one 20 minutes. And sometimes it goes a little bit more, but only if it's needed. I try to just keep it at that, 20 minutes. And we have goals because we set goals, and this is the next month we come up and it's an accountability check-in, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And usually one of those goals is personal. So we have a goal, business goal, we have a learning educational goal, and then we have a personal goal. And you're able to find out sometimes a lot more than you want to know too. But you can easily identify when someone, in our check-ins, my weekend was whatever, I didn't do anything. Or you start to see even, someone, if they're withdrawing or just kind of holding back. We also have a channel where every morning, even though we're not meeting, we put our word of the day and our intention for the day. And you can literally will tell in between the lines, like I kind of go briefly and read everything, and energy or, whatever it may be that the word that they use, I'm thinking, something's a little bit off. But in this one-on-ones is really where we become a little bit more vulnerable. And that's when a few of them actually have opened up.
Yeah.
Share. Just being vulnerable, what is happening. And sometimes they don't even know what's happening, and they just feel like this cloud over their head.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. I think that there's so much potential just to abstract away the person when you're working in business, where you're just like, I'm going to ask you about your KPIs. I'm going to ask you about your metrics, your numbers, your commission. But I think that all of those things are going to be the last indicator that someone is not doing well. Whereas I totally get what you mean about being able to, if you take the time to know your people, being able to kind of see when things are off. I have a really good friend at HawkSoft, Ken Shiel. He's one of our product owners. And I sent him a link to a playlist I was listening to once. And he just responded. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh, how'd you know I was having a terrible day?" And he's like, you only ever listen to this music when you're having a bad day. And I was like, "Yeah." And we had a conversation about it. So I get what you mean. It's like you make a conscious effort to know your team members. And that kind of rewards you with an early warning system.
That, and when I see it, sometimes I'll just send them a Slack. We use Slack, Slack channel, and I'll just, check in, and they'll open up, or send them certain messages. I always have a bunch of quotes that I like to gather and put in a sheet, and so I just kind of copy and paste, and sometimes that'll open up a conversation because you sometimes it's just a bad day, but it's not something that's continuing. But if it is, I feel that over time you build a trust by meeting with them, and then they're able to just when it does. Different personalities. Some people don't have a problem, being vulnerable and opening up, but some people do. They like to be very private, very quiet. But you could see it, in people if you pay attention.
Yeah. And I think that's really amazing that you put that effort in, because I know that you're a very busy person. My next question is about boundaries, but I want to kind of go somewhere else because I'd love to know, a lot of our audience are agency owners themselves. So, you're doing a lot of proactive work to make sure your team's okay. How do you take care of your own mental health as an agency owner?
That's a really good one, and it's so important as well because if we as the leaders, and this is what I tell my team all the time, right? If we as leaders are not taking care of our mental health, how can you help anyone else?
Yeah.
It's very challenging. So what do? I know this is funny, and one time I was sharing with them, I said, "Yeah, I'm going to therapy." And they're like, "Oh, you're kidding, right, Patty? Patty, you're always up, beat, and let's do this, and let's do that, and let's go help this person." I said, "No, I'm serious. I am." But why? Well, because I feel that it's something that I need to, I don't tell them all of that, but as you know, all of the burdens and all of the responsibilities and trying to meet everything, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to someone else that where they're not gonna feel that, oh, are we okay? Is the business okay? Is, because
Mm-hmm.
Patty's being vulnerable with us that way. And I mean, I'm very transparent with everything, but then there's certain things that you need to do. So one, I do go to therapy and just have different, whatever topic I want to talk about. So I let those
Yeah.
things out. Um, but honestly, my routine every morning is just to wake up and be grateful for everything. And
Mm.
I don't know what faith anyone may have, but I really thank God and ask Him to allow me to just see things the way He would see, or hear things the way He would hear them, and mostly the words that come out of my mouth to be more of aligned with something He'd want me to say.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of things sometimes I want to say personally that should not come out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
um, and then the rest, I exercise. I really recently have paid a lot more attention to my eating habits,
Mm-hmm.
like the choices of food, because I'm noticing how it affects me.
Yeah.
And trust me, I love food in general, but I'm noticing that certain products are not so good for me. The mood I'm in,
Yeah.
and just physical. So yeah, definitely try to. I love hiking, so hiking to me is like just being in nature. Puts me in a grateful,
Yeah.
mood. Yeah.
Yeah. I really appreciate you sharing that. I also do therapy regularly, and I think it's like a huge. Like it oscillates between a key component of my mental health and like the 5 pound weights you might carry jogging. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it is critical, and sometimes it is just a little like helpful conditioning thing that you can keep in place. Um, HawkSoft is big on the attitude of gratitude and that intentionality around being grateful for things. Um, and yeah, I think that I can never remember which way it goes, but I heard a saying a long time ago that was like, if you're mad at everybody, eat something, and if you think everybody's mad at you, drink some water. Like just these things where
Yeah.
there's a lot of like we deal with a lot of pressure from the media and social media and pop culture around like how we should be eating, how we should be doing things, that like gets a lot of people out of just kind of understanding what their body does when they eat different things. And so I think getting back to that intuitive sense of like, oh, here are some things that I could be paying attention to and listening to. Um, so that's awesome. I'm glad that you have that structure in place.
One thing that has helped me honestly is to understand that, you know, maybe as we're younger and all of the social media, we are really influenced by, we're supposed to look a certain way, we're supposed to do certain things or behave in a certain way. So I think there's a lot of pressure on that. But one of the things that I realized is like, I mean, this is the only body I have.
Mm-hmm.
And being impacted by, I saw someone that lost their legs and stuff, and I just honestly being in that grateful mindset of, I go for a walk and I listen to positive books and podcasts and stuff like that, and I'm like, thank you feet, I'm thinking my body, and then I laugh, and
Yeah.
I mean, people, if they're watching me right now, they think I'm really weird, but I'm thanking every part of my body. And so then I started thinking, and now literally like I'll laugh when I I really want to eat that ice cream. And I'm like, yeah, but my stomach's gonna suffer. Do I, stomach, help me out here? Not just kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, it just sounds really weird, but just
No,
being
I
a bit more aware of, what it does.
absolutely. I'm going to send you a song after this by an artist I really like. Her name's Tessa Violet. She just released a song called My Body's My Buddy. I'll
Oh,
send it to you.
nice.
It's really good.
Thanks.
Um, okay, so now I want to rewind because you have a strategy in place for taking care of yourself. And I'd love to know, how do you as an agency owner put boundaries in place between supporting a team member and not enabling maybe bad behavior or enabling their bad choices? How do you navigate that?
Well, some of the strategies that we put in place, or at least that I thought were the best thing, is like the whole thing about creating a book club that we have in the office was to allow our team to also have access to certain books. And whether they listen to them or they read them, right? Like, a lot of our team will participate in coming into the one day, it's 1 hour where we get together and we talk about what we learned through the book. And that has helped. The other thing that I like, again, when we have that one-on-one, I just bring them in, Zoom call if we need to, or come into the office, and then, let them know that they should not worry about taking time if they need to seek help, professional help. My support there is by allowing the time, and that no one else needs to find out. They can do that. If I start, if I continue to see, I check in, hey, how's it going? Are you doing anything? And many times, honestly, they'll tell you, I'm not doing anything. I'm just trying. And I always say, remember, if you try the same thing over and over every day, how do you expect a different result? There's going to be no result. So I do find I have given people certain resources. I just go to Google and find different things that I checked in with other leaders that I know, and I have other coaches, and provide all of the information. But if the person, which unfortunately I did have the experience, and it was the hardest thing, and it took me a year to let go of someone, where it got to the point where it was very dangerous, and making sure that the client was protected properly at that point, it was more of like, hey, I love you enough that this cannot continue to happen. And here's my hope for you. And we did like a really nice little severance package. This is what can happen. Please get well. And, the doors will be open. I just can no longer take this risk.
Yeah.
And, this person hasn't come back. And it actually happens to be also a family member of someone that's still working with us. And, they report they're doing okay, but still, a little stuck in that area. Yeah.
But it sounds like, you had to you had to really think about the whole, not to be cliche, but the whole family, your whole agency in that situation where, we can want the best for one person, but we also have to be considerate of our whole team, our whole company, that type of thing.
Absolutely. You have to. We're here. That is my position, to protect everything else and everyone else. It's unfortunate, right? You can only do so much, but they need to want to be helped as well.
Yeah. And I think that is a good thing to remind leaders and agency owners, people listening to this, that to a certain extent you can really start to do almost unintentional self-harm by being too accommodating, being too understanding. I always kind of go back to the metaphor of they tell you when you're in an airplane, you put your oxygen mask on first, kind of thing, where, we want to be helpful and supportive of everyone, but that starts with ourselves. And that can lead to those tough decisions where it's like, are we being as supportive as we can by enabling this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So then, I imagine you are pulled in a lot of different directions in your agency, in your private life, in your community. I know you're very engaged in community work. How do you prioritize the work of your agency versus the work of maintaining your agency's culture, the mental health of your team, all of that?
I just, I surrounded myself with like really good people and team members. I truly believe without my team, many of the things that we do would not be able to be accomplished. We started with something so small and continue to add. And I think that's what it is. It's just a support. I'm very good at enrolling people into helping in certain areas. And I just, I designate certain things to be done. And for the most part, I know the agency comes first. So I need to schedule everything. I need to have a task list, and within my task list, I will add what needs to be done, like on my part for the agency, the accounting, any of the boards that I serve, the planning, the marketing team. So that's why I have a marketing team now, because I can come up with the idea. I can tell them this is what I would like for it to look like. And I live off of meetings and Zooms so that we can, meet and then go over what, like today we had a meeting about, all of our, the last quarter of the year we have Pinktober, which, we support breast cancer angels. We have Gas for Angels coming up. Super excited, by the way, because my Philippine team, we're supporting now an orphanage there, and that's Gas for Angels in the Philippines is what we're calling it. Then we have we're going to Gas for Angels in Honduras, which is where we have another team member, and he's covering a senior center. They're covering an orphanage, and the one we cover in Mexico from some of our team members here, it's people with mental health issues, from young adults to older, and then here in the city of in Orange County, we feed young men and women from the age of 18 to 25.
I imagine that while that work is difficult, it's also maybe like affirming the reason for all of the other hard work. Being able to do that probably makes it worthwhile.
Absolutely. It's the most rewarding thing. I get so excited about it because you could see we have a community room now in our office, so we started to collect shoes and all of the stuff that we use during this time of the year. So, yeah, it's really exciting. And the team gets excited about it. And, I believe that if you need to have a purpose, and that's part of our purpose, and that's part of our connection, program. So, we continue to raise funds throughout the year, like people connecting us giving back to our communities and stuff like that.
I'm very moved by the commitment your agency and your people have to serving others. And I have to imagine, based on my own personal experience of doing that taking that opportunity has a net benefit to your own mental health, to the team's mental health, in kind of being of service. I find that is often where I find myself the happiest. So I appreciate you sharing that as an example, and hopefully other agencies can kind of take up the banner as well.
I just want to add, I know it's not for everyone, and that's okay. We can serve others in many different levels, and that's what I tell myself all the time. Part of being in business, when I, being on the board with HawkSoft, I see the board members like, oh my gosh, they go above and beyond. They put in all this extra time, and that's passion. That's passion to give, because truly, I commend them for giving all of the time, and they're very good at it, right? I may not be very good at that, and I don't have to be. You don't have to be very good at everything. You just have to be good at what you love, and then it doesn't seem like a burden or just something extra that you do. And yes, it's not easy. And also, I can tell you that when we hire now, I've had so many applicants recently, and I always ask, and if they haven't looked at our social media or website and things like that, I invite them into it. But I've had many applicants say, I really like what you do with the community. I really enjoy, and I want to be part of something like that. And I truly believe that people are silently waiting to be led. And that can be in any way. It can be in the sales department, the customer service department, and just a smile. For me, the director of welcome, I say, you smile every time you answer the phone. We have to be the same. And is it perfect every time? No. We're not perfect. That's the beauty of it. We're imperfect. And so knowing that we're imperfect, what can we do to make things better in any way?
I love that so much. I do have one last question to ask you today. I would love to know if you have any recommendations or resources that you think our listeners should check out. And I want to start with one in particular. Maybe this will give you a second to think about others. For our listeners in California, the state with the most HawkSoft users in it, where should they go hiking? What's a good hike they should check out?
Oh gosh, well, if you're in Orange County, you can go to Peters Canyon, Santiago Canyon, Laguna. Fullerton has some steps; those are pretty neat too. LA, there's so many different trails. I've actually discovered recently some that I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been here all my life and I haven't. I didn't even know that we're down the street. I'm just for timing wise, I just like to go something that's near me.
Sure.
And it gets me out into nature. But Corona has some really nice trails as well.
And then, are there any podcasts or books that you think people should check out?
Speaking about this, one of the books that stuck, I love Brene Brown.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the books that we did as a team was, Daring Greatly. And I would highly recommend this to anyone because in this particular book, she talks about vulnerability and how embracing it, it can really help you and lead you into connecting and having the courage. I think that was the biggest thing, connecting for me, being vulnerable, and then that gives you courage, right? Or you have to have courage to be vulnerable. And so, so I think that's one of the books that really, I would say that was helpful. And then one other one that actually, it's not really about mental health, but it really helps because Atomic Habits by James Clear, because you learn about just small habits, just one tiny little small habit that you can start to add. I feel that really supports a better mental health.
Those are fantastic. I really appreciate that. And if I ever make it down to California, I will check out those hiking trails.
Oh my gosh, you got to call me, Kenny, then we can go.
Absolutely.
And then I'm going from Disney.
That's the other thing.
I have an annual pass.
Earth, right? I didn't come to hiking willingly, but I cannot deny that I always feel better when I get out in the woods. Patty, I am so grateful for your time today. I'm grateful to know you, but I'm also grateful that you gave us 45 minutes of your day today so that we could sit down and have this conversation. I can't wait to share this with our listeners. Thank you for watching today's episode. Click the video description below to learn more about our guests and to view the latest podcast episode as well as other content from HawkSoft. We appreciate you watching and hope you join us next time on the Insurance Perspectives podcast. Thank you.